So, that suggests I tell a little football story. One thing's for sure, and I'm sure this is true of many of you, especially the men, as I have, my son is here, Matthew. In sports, the older I get, the better I was. That is the truth of aging fathers. So, one time, I played high school ball and played Division II in college. I wish I weighed then what I weigh now, because I would be a retired pro football player by now, or I said I'd be 500 pounds. But anyway, so we were the #1 ranked large school, high school team in the state of Iowa, and we were playing undefeated, and we were playing the #1 ranked undefeated team in the state of South Dakota, Sioux Falls, Lincoln. They were in the same conference. So we went up there for this game. It's a real defensive game, and into the third quarter, no scoring whatsoever. Now, mind you, these two offenses, we had outscored our opponents like 350 points to 48 for the year. And so, but we had scored, I was center. And so we were punting again, and I'm long snapping. You know, the punter, he's back there, and I won't do it because I probably can't get up from that position now. But as a long snapper, you have to, as you snap the ball, you hurl the ball through your legs, and your head ends up looking back, and you actually see the punter back there. Well, the punter was the quarterback also, thank God, it was a buddy of mine. So the last thing I see, we're about on our own 40-yard line punting, and I snap the ball, and the last thing I see is my buddy, Bob Larson, the punter, like this, jumping. Ah! And the ball goes about 10 feet over his arm. Oh, no. And then you have to block. So you have to forget about what's going on back there. So I had to block so I didn't make a double, idiot of myself. So I'm blocking. And you could just hear the crowd going, just a chance for the opposition, just the other team just screaming. And all of a sudden, what happens is he runs back, picks up the ball, dodges a couple of tackles. My buddy who's a tight end runs an impromptu route. He throws the buddy for a first down. About 3 plays later, we score. And we ended up winning the game 6-0. 6-0. I remember coming off the side of the field, and the coach went, Harrison! Ah! Nothing else. He never said anything else. It was really funny. But I used that as an illustration in a little book I wrote on joy some time ago about how the church gathers together and help as a body, we cover each other's weakness. And sometimes we don't cover each other's weakness. We like to talk about it, reveal it. But when the church is acting like the church, we act together. We act in ways that help the weakness of others. In that case, my horrible mistake was evident to everybody in the whole stadium. And it was such a wonderful team that they compensated very quickly, and they made the best out of what could have been an absolutely horrible circumstance. And that's the beauty of being Christians. We know we're all going to sin against each other and fail from time to time. How wonderful to know that you can be merciful to your family, knowing you just don't, you're not going to have a perfect kid. Look, I got a kid. He's not perfect. I'll tell you. No, he's nearly perfect. Well, at least that's what his mother says. No, Matthew's a great kid. But you're free, you're free to forgive each other and live in a beautiful way, not expecting perfection around you. And there couldn't be anything better than that. Now, I'm supposed to tell you about kind of where the Missouri Synod is at these days. I'll just take a few minutes. The Supreme Court ruled in Obergefell last spring that same-sex marriage was legal throughout the United States. The ruling, if you actually read the ruling, it is one of the poorest written rulings probably in the history of the court. It bases marriage, it says marriage is basically nothing more than a heightened emotional kind of relationship. All of history, the Bible, and all of natural law understood marriage as a complementarity of male and female with a possibility of procreation. It is, this ruling is, by the way, Justice Scalia said that if he were forced to write the majority opinion in such a weak case and had written what Kennedy wrote, that he would have done so, but he would have put a bag over his head before doing it. He'd been so embarrassed to do it. The dissenting opinions are excellent. We're in a challenging place now. Over 40 years ago, Roe v. Wade ruled that abortion was the law of the land and legal. And what happened was, right after the abortion ruling, the New York Times and others came out with newspaper headlines that said, it's over. The debate is over. And they fully expect, the secular left fully expected that doctors and hospitals would all perform abortions. Well, what happened? Over a period of time, many Christian doctors and hospitals simply said no, and they made the case to carve out accommodations for people with conscience problems regarding abortion, whether they be on the basis of revelation, the Bible, which is very clear on the matter, or on natural law. Look, you don't kill a fetus. And so over time, really, we won the argument on abortion. Everybody knows what is being terminated or killed in a womb or pulled outside the womb and killed, especially since the Planned Parenthood thing. What nobody could have expected 40 years ago was that the majority of millennials today are pro-life. Nobody could have predicted that. Nobody would have predicted that. And yet it's true. And you know why it's true? It's true because we've been aided both by articulating the case about life, and we've been aided by science and technology. You can hardly go any place where you don't see an ultrasound image of a child staring your preborn, grandchild or child's face, staring right in the face from an ultrasound. And no matter what some left-wing professor sitting in some endowed university chair has been teaching about abortion rights for 40 years, when that person looks in the face of their own grandchild in an ultrasound, they have to say, wow. The same thing will happen with the marriage issue. There will now be 40 years, because of bad law, there will now be a struggle of decades for Christians and others of conscience to carve out accommodation rights. This is going to be a tough row to hoe. We are very susceptible right now. We could face a court ruling nationally, and we will, but we could face a ruling which says, and by the way, the Supreme Court majority opinion, in the questioning, the majority justices noted that this was the case. Federal funding to Christian education, secondary education especially, university education, could largely be in jeopardy. So for instance, if a court rules that participating in federal student loan programs at our Concordia universities is illegal because we have not accepted, that is the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod and its 10 universities and 2 seminaries, has not accepted the majority view of marriage, they could rule, they could very well rule, and soon, that none of our colleges or seminaries can participate in federal student loan programs. Do you know how many of our colleges, universities would survive? By the way, we have 36,000 people attending our universities across the country. Not one of them would survive. They would all be closed. Simply because we have a religious conviction that says marriage is between one man and one woman, which is the way the Bible defines it, and the way natural law has defined it since the beginning of time. So we will fight. The Lutheran St. Paul said what? When he was being put upon by the Jews and then put upon by the Roman governor, etc., he said what? I appeal to Caesar. We'll do the same thing. We will sue. And it will be a God-blessed thing to do. But what will take place over time? And I know there may be some of you here today who are not convinced on gay marriage. Many of us have very poor argumentation on the issue. Well, now we're going to be forced to argue well on the issue. You could face a situation in a short period of time where the existence, and believe me, the hard left is already doing this. They are plotting to figure out how to eliminate schools like yours. And the other roughly 850 Missouri Synod grade schools across the country. So we have this challenge. In the years to come, the science will begin to catch up, and they will begin to show us all kinds of opportunities for making the case that a marriage culture is by far the most helpful culture and the most healthy culture. I would like to make the case, as a person from St. Louis who watched Ferguson unfold, that what we are dealing with more than anything else is the demise of a marriage culture where a father and a mother raise children. And this demise of the marriage culture is shifting us all over the world into socialism with great intensity. That is, the state, if we don't have parents caring for children anymore, who cares for children? The state. If families are not caring for and watching out for the elderly, etc. anymore, who's doing it? The state. And consequently, the state becomes ever more involved in areas where the state shouldn't be involved, like our religious choices. We have been given by the Constitution of the United States the Bill of Rights, which was signed by Muhlenberg, by the way, a Lutheran pastor who was the first Speaker of the House. We were given the right not only to assemble, not which this administration, federal administration, has basically tried to say our religious rights are the right to assemble. We have more than the right to assemble. We have the right to a free conscience, and that was something which began most intensely with Martin Luther, by the way. We have the right to a conscience uncoerced by a government. We also have the right, according to the First Amendment, of the free exercise of religion. We may freely exercise religion. It is our religious conviction as a church body that marriage is between one man and one woman. That does not mean we don't recognize the civil rights and ample rights of every individual, no matter what their sexual preference. It does not mean that we act in a way toward people who struggle with these issues and families that struggle, because many of them do and many of us do. Does not mean that we have a license to act improperly or to do anything else but love and care for people. But what happens now, and what is going to happen, is that the church will continue to be put upon and discriminated against for these positions. And we are going to have to stand and confess Christ. Now, ironically, Christianity in the West is on a very steep decline. It's becoming obvious, I think, to us all. The challenges before us are enormous. The Missouri Synod has done better than most mainline Protestant denominations, mainline old line churches in this regard. However, we've struggled immensely too. The last time any Missouri Synod district grew was in the late 90s. Any of the 35 districts around the whole country. The biggest challenge we have is that our family size has simply reflected the family size of the broader culture. So the average of the 600 and some thousand families of the Missouri Synod, the average family size is 2.4. That is one reason, especially, why we're declining. 2.4 is not enough to replace yourself. And secondarily, our outreach has not made up for our decline. And outreach becomes ever more difficult in a secular, ever more secular context. But this is the place the Lord has put us. I believe that we are in a time, sort of in the end times, when the gospel, Luther says the gospel comes and it waters. How many of you are German background? Should have asked how many of you are not of German background. Yeah! Yeah, what are you, Scandinavian? Cross the river? No. Okay. Well, I'm Harrison. But there was Grandma Wolf. I mean, okay. No, she's a great lady. She won the religion wars in the family. I can't remember what I was going to say. Anyway, what's that? Oh, yeah. Luther said the gospel comes like a fahrende Platzregen, a passing rain shower, and it comes and it brings its message and it waters a place for a time. And then after the life of a man, or 100 or 150, or like he says, one place, 150 years, it passes on and goes elsewhere. Why does it pass? Luther says it passes away for thanklessness. Thanklessness. I pray we repent and thank God for the blessing we have. Wow, to see your congregation, to see all of those children up there, wow, you are blessed. 150 years. You're also primed to be thankless, to take it for granted. There's much work to do in the United States, and there will be for a long time. However, ironically, because the gospel is moving, the greatest opportunity before us in history is out there around the world for the Missouri Synod. We are the only church, the only Orthodox Lutheran church body that believes the Scriptures and Luther's catechism like he believed it and meant it. We are the only ones that have a worldwide capacity. And as a matter of fact, because of the decisions on sexuality of the Germans, of the Swedes, of now the ELCA, approving gay marriage, etc., the global South and the East are coming to us. Virtually every week we get contacted by another Lutheran church body somewhere. Dramatically, the largest Lutheran church body in the world, and the fastest growing to this point, is the Makani Jesus. Makani Jesus is Ethiopian for the place of Jesus. Nice name for a church, huh? They're approaching 8 million members. Ethiopia. And they have come to us asking for help. They cut ties with the Swedish church, which is their mother. They cut ties with the ELCA, which is their other mother. And they told us it was like cutting our arms off to do that. But they realized they must they must stick with the Scriptures. And so they've asked us to help design their seminary programs. They've asked us with assistance on theology. We're in full conversations with these things. It's amazing. The next president of the church body is a guy who actually studied in our Fort Wayne Seminary, likely to be the next president, studied in the Fort Wayne Seminary and became rostered on the clergy roster of the Missouri Synod. He's the general secretary of that church, likely to be elected next year. Madagascar, who would guess? I went to Madagascar. I was very, very disappointed. You know why? Those animals don't talk at all down there. Okay, see if he's still awake. Over 4 million Lutherans in Madagascar. Do you have any idea of that? And the beauty is, in Madagascar, you show up, you go to church, and you got a big church, right? Go to Ansarabe on a Sunday morning in just one church, 6,000 Lutherans on a Sunday morning. I was there on Reformation Day one year. They're singing A Mighty Fortress in Malagasy. The liturgy is all done in a way you would all be able to participate. And they're growing like crazy. They start a new church every week. A new church start for them is 1,000 people. Everybody says, well, how are they positive? Have you seen what are they doing? What's the method? Well, it's pretty obvious when you're over there. There are kids everywhere. Now, you're free to make those decisions. I mean, that's a matter of Christian freedom. But it's an area that we haven't talked much about. What does the Bible actually say about families? I think God likes them. Yeah, I think God likes children too. So they could very easily, we're working a lot, they could very easily come into fellowship with us. Now the bishop of Tanzania, another 4 to 5 million Lutherans in Tanzania, half the country is the East Lake Diocese of Tanzania. The bishop of that whole region has been working with us. Our Fort Wayne Seminary has been working there. They just ordained about 21 pastors in training. The same situation is going on. We've talked about the Dominican. Your congregation is helping out in the Dominican. It's absolutely crucial to do this. There's a new church start there. We have 140 total pastors in all of Central South America, aside from Brazil. Brazil is the largest Missouri Synod partner church. It's 250,000 people, enormous. It's going great guns. The rest, only 140 total pastors from Mexico, the Mexican border, to Argentina. Right now we have over 80 men in training, most of them at our Argentina seminary. We are planting another seminary in the Dominican. And the need and the opportunity is just endless. And what's beautiful about, we believe as Lutherans that wherever Jesus is and people simply believe in Jesus and the forgiveness of sins, there are Christians. However, it is our responsibility as the Missouri Synod to be crystal clear, to do Lutheran missions, to bear witness to everybody, no matter what, of the free forgiveness in Jesus, by faith alone, by grace alone, by Christ alone, all given to us clearly and spelled out for us by Scripture alone. That is our sacred task. That is our gift to the world. By the way, I must say, we are in dialogue today with more Christian denominations than ever before. We had not talked to Wells since I was born, 1962. We are now in yearly conversations with the Wisconsin Synod. Pastor Schrader, Mark Schrader, is a good friend of mine. In fact, I called him up and asked if he wanted to go out for dinner. He's the president of Wells. I asked him if he wanted to go out for dinner on Friday night. He said he couldn't, but we're looking forward. We'll meet again together in Florida for several days with a number of theologians, and we'll continue to dialogue. We are in dialogue with the North American Lutheran Church, which is about, I think it's like 600 congregations, which are split off from the ELCA. We are in full dialogue with the North American Anglican Communion, which is about 1,000 churches which have split from the Episcopalian Church because of homosexuality. We even are in a bilateral dialogue, conversations with the Roman Catholic Church under the auspices of all of our worldwide partners, which has now had its second meeting in Germany, in Frankfurt, Germany last week. And I put out, by the way, a statement on abortion and the Planned Parenthood fiasco with Archbishop Carlson of St. Louis just last week. So when people say, the Missouri Synod doesn't do anything with anybody, bleh, it's not quite true. The fact is we're talking with more than ever, and we're standing together more than ever with other Christians who are strong in the Scriptures. So it really is a great time for us to be who we are. In fact, it's the best time ever. We faced real challenges at home. We face real challenges with our young people. We track the views of young people at our youth gatherings. Over the last 6 or 8 years, our young people moved on same-sex marriage to 25% pro to last 2 years ago, 50% pro, because of the onslaught of culture and the challenge we have in articulating the truth in a winsome way. We're undergoing a catechism revision right now. That is, the explanation part will be beefed up on these kind of issues, and some apologetics material will be added. There's a lot going on. I think I should end my long-winded speech for you so you can get to significant things in life like Packers games and whatever you do with your family. But thank you, Pastor O'Donnell. Such a pleasure to be with you. It's such a pleasure to see a strong, healthy congregation. And I know you go through your ups and downs. We all do. But it's a fact that we go through crosses and the Lord blesses through them in very specific ways. Just like Jesus went through the cross, you can count on the fact that when we go through crosses as a church, when you go through crosses in your life, the Lord blesses. And all things work together for good. And you'll be shocked that one congregation decides to help out in the Dominican by building a school. You'll be shocked at the eternal blessings that will be harvested from that. So thanks for all you're doing. The Lord continue to bless you and keep you in every way, and I'm really honored that I could come and talk to you for just a little while today. Thank you.